Dangerous Toys, Jason McMaster says, doesn't believe grunge killed hair metal. I think that hair metal killed hair metal. Imagine that, taking responsibility.
Yeah.
In a new interview with Anthony Bryan of the hair metal guru, Jason McMaster of Texas rockers Dangerous Toys, I did not know they were from Texas either, who achieves a short but sweet burst of success in the midst of the late 1980s glam metal boom, spoke about how the rise of grunge in the early 1990s forced most hard rock bands off the radio and MTV, with album and tour sales plummeting. He said, I was kind of living in my own bubble, and if someone said grunge killed hair metal, I throw up in my mouth every time I say hair metal. But I'm trying to be crystal clear. I think that's wrong. I think that hair metal killed hair metal. Too many bands got signed, and there were too many terrible bands that got signed. And if you think Dangerous Toys is one of those terrible bands, I'm open to that. I'm cool with you thinking that. But it was ridiculous as to how far it got taken with the whole look and the whole feel of everything. I feel like it didn't have any balls anymore, and it was supposed to have some balls.
I like this already.
Yeah, this is what I've said all along too. Like, I always make the comparison to modern rap and where metal was at in this era, because it, just like he said, it got so fucking saturated that there was just a lot
I
of
almost
crap.
see that now too with like all music.
Yeah, I would say
like with rap and even with metal too. Like it's
with new metal from my era. You know,
Yeah.
It was like when new metal first came out, it was awesome, and then it like there was too many new metal bands that all sounded the same, and it died off real quick.
Yeah,
and it got a bad name.
Every fad does that too. Yeah.
Why do they spell it NU? I've always wondered that. Why is it spelled
That's
new?
a cool way to spell it, Dryden.
So dumb.
Because it's German.
Yeah. New metal.
New metal.
Would you consider Rammstein new metal, Joey?
No, because it's not really rapping. You know, it's more of the. I feel like it's
you
more,
have to have rap though.
Maybe not, but I feel like Rammstein leans more industrial than it does.
Yeah, you're
metal.
right. You're right. Me and Toys. What were we saying, Dren?
They have pyrotechnics.
Yeah. Me and all the Toys guys really respected a lot of the bands that were sort of not at war against Hairspray or whatever. Jason continued. It was more like they felt real to me. And those bands like Junkyard, Rhino Bucket, and Raging Slab and Circus of Power. And there's a shit ton of them. There's a bunch of that sort of movement of a punk, dirty alley cat style or whatever, just rock and roll. It was coming from maybe a Southern rock attitude or an early AC/DC attitude where it wasn't about hair. I mean, I know that people call AC/DC a hair. I wouldn't call AC/DC a hair metal band.
I wouldn't either.
I know that Dee Snider doesn't like the term hair metal. Twisted Sister is arguably one of the first hair metal bands.
Okay, so there again, there's another point. Like, would you say Twisted Sister kind of created or helped create that genre?
That's a good question. I mean, they were on the cusp of it, right? I would say that the genre was really created by Van Halen. I think Van Halen was the band that kind of set the tone for the 80s. If you look at the template they created with like the shredder guitarist and the flamboyant lead singer.
That's interesting though, because like I don't disagree with you, but when I think of hair metal, I never think of Van Halen.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I think of like Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Cinderella,
Sure.
like that kind of vein.
But those bands, though, I would argue were the result of Van Halen. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Could even like Aerosmith was a precursor to Van Halen, but I wouldn't consider Aerosmith a hair band because they never like glammed out or like they were always like a rock band. You know what I mean?
I feel like hair metal is probably when you stuff your pants with a sock.
It's when you look like a chick.
I think Poison, like Poison and Twisted Sister might be like the OGs of the like hair metal era, but so if you look at like Van Halen, for example, right? Like when hair metal got big, they still played rock and roll, but they kind of shed all that. When they got Sammy and they did like Right Now and all that kind of stuff, they kind of went in a more like classy direction. They're like, nah, we ain't part of that like that shit. You know what I mean?
That's why I wish Eric was here to chime in because he would.
I know. That's damn you, Eric. But so there was a similar dynamic with nu metal and the band Incubus. Right. So like when Incubus first came out, they kind of got blunt. I don't think they were even nu metal when they first came out. They were more like funk metal, Faith No More-ish. But they intentionally went like soft to get out of that world.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Which was probably a good move for them.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I saw Van Halen doing. You know what I mean with the hair.
Well, I think Linkin Park kind of did the same thing. I mean, you could arguably say that they were new metal when they started, but I don't think they wanted to stay there because they definitely went way more soft.
No, they're a pop. They're like a popular, I would say a hard rock band.
But their first 2 albums, I would say, are new metal-ish.
Definitely.
You know,
I mean, they still have rap stuff too. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, let me finish this. Just rock. So AC/DC.
Sorry to interrupt.
No. That's why we do this.
I had 2 monsters today, so I'm really chatty and sassy today.
No, I love it. We like to take sidebars. Dee Snider doesn't like the term hair metal because it doesn't really play into what they were about, because they were kind of a street rock band. And anyway, I think Dirty Looks was one of those bands as well. And like I said, I could keep going. There's just a stock of them that didn't really play into, and I won't mention just whatever you think is hair metal might be quite different than what I think is hair metal. McMaster added, so I think hair metal killed hair metal. I think grunge was about to happen anyway. For those of you who might not know, Soundgarden and Nirvana, I'll just stick with them. They were touring their first records in like 87. So I don't know. It just took a minute for those bands to break. It took them just like it took a minute for Guns N' Roses to have commercial success. Guns didn't break right away, and that record was out for a year and a half before it really had any numbers to speak of. Yeah, because back then they didn't have the internet too. Like news traveled slowly. It's like your friend had to show it to you.
Yeah, and then Nevermind came out.
Yeah. So
one last thing about that article. The thing I like most about it, the dude's probably right, but like just the fact, like you said, he's like taking responsibility for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and even just saying like, hey, if you think my band is part of that,
that's fine.
I'm open for it.
Like, yeah.
I
that's
love
very
that.
cool. Makes me want to go listen to some of their stuff.
Yep.